the hadith of Abi Huraira radiyallahu an, that he said, Awsani Khalili bi-thalath. My beloved, meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave me advice to do three things, or he advised me three things. La ad'uhunna hatta amut. I'm not going to leave those three things until I die. Sawmi thalathati ayyamin min kulli shahr. That I fast 3 days out of every month. And we're going to talk about that when we come on to talk about the times of the month, inshallah. Wa salati duha wa nawmin ala witr. So he advised him three things. The first one was that I fast 3 days out of every month. And we're going to talk about that later, inshallah. The second is salat al-duha, the duha prayer. And this is a prayer that many people don't pray regularly, and maybe many people don't even know about. The time for the duha prayer starts when the sun has risen qayda rumh, to the height of a spear. And someone might ask, well, how do I know when the sun has risen to the height of a spear? Really simple. To keep it simple, look at the shuruq time on your prayer timetable, that is the time of sunrise, and add 15 minutes. That's a simple way. Some scholars said 12, some, depending on the region, but just keep it simple, keep it safe. Just look at the time of shuruq and add 15 minutes. That is the beginning of the time of duha. And the end of the time of duha is the zawal. Zawal roughly is about 15 minutes before dhuhr. So this duha prayer, it is fitted in between 15 minutes after sunrise until 15 minutes before dhuhr, roughly speaking. Zawal is when the sun is right in the middle of the sky, the exact time of noon. And then of course, dhuhr starts when the sun has just begun to move into the western half of the sky. So it's just started to move into the afternoon, just began to move from its highest point. So duha, roughly 15 minutes after sunrise until roughly 15 minutes before dhuhr, that is the time for duha. And we had already spoken about praying 2 raka'at after sitting in the masjid after fajr until the sun rises, and then waiting for it to rise the height of a spear, which is around 15 minutes after sunrise, and then praying 2 raka'at. These 2 raka'at are actually part of duha. They come under the time of duha, and they're a part of the duha prayer. And the duha prayer, the best time for it, the time that it is the best to pray it, is when the sun begins to get hot. So if you think about sunrise and 15 minutes after sunrise, typically, even no matter what country, it's still pretty cold outside. Even if you're in a very hot country, it's still quite cool outside. It's still quite bearable, the heat. If you imagine a really hot day, and then you say, let's say for example, sunrise, let's just put a number on it. Let's just say that it happens at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it's still pretty cool outside. It's not too hot. Maybe by 9 o'clock, it's starting to get warm and, it's a little uncomfortable outside. But when the sun is really hot, let's just put, if we're just talking about an example, it's 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that. When the sun has just started to get really, really hot, and the sand, if you live in a country with sand, it starts to get too hot for the small animals to put their feet. You see the small baby camels lifting up their feet from the heat of the sand. That time is the best time to pray al-duha. And al-duha, generally speaking, it is prayed 2 by 2 by 2, like all voluntary prayers. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Salatul layli wan nahar mathna mathna, aw kama qal, that the prayers in the night and the day, i.e. the voluntary prayers, are 2 by 2 by 2. None of them are more than 2 raka'at at a time, up to 8 raka'at in total. And particularly the duha prayer is really important for people who don't catch qiyamul layl. And this is a forgotten sunnah, that if you don't catch qiyamul layl, or you didn't do enough qiyamul layl, praying at night as you wanted to, then you make up in duha what you didn't catch in the night time. So this is a prayer that a lot of people are not aware of, and that it has a great virtue. And we mentioned this with regard to the night prayer when the Prophet ﷺ said, وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ, pray at night when people are sleeping. That there's a great virtue in praying at a time when other people are not concentrating on the prayer. If that time is, of course, legislated in the Sunnah. So legislated in the Sunnah, duha prayer. And this is one of the three things that the Prophet ﷺ advised Abi Huraira, that you you fast 3 days out of every month. You pray the duha prayer. And the last one was you go to sleep having prayed witr. And this is something which, again, we don't dwell too much upon, but the idea is that for people who might struggle to get up and pray witr before Fajr, or people who often sleep through witr, the sunnah is for them to pray witr before they go to sleep. Now a person might say, okay, but if I pray witr before I go to sleep, then what do I do if I do get up for the night prayer? Pray the night prayer, but don't pray witr. So this idea of the fact that if you're a person who regularly misses witr because you have the intention but you just keep sleeping through it and not waking up early enough, then pray witr before you go to sleep. And this hadith narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari narrated it 1178 and Muslim number 721. And also a similar hadith in Sahih Muslim 1183 from the hadith of Abi Darda radiyallahu anhu.